A debit card or a credit card? No credit card for you, right? Debit card? Do you have a friend that just went on a flight and says that they got it for free with their credit card rewards points, or your parents constantly heckling you about getting a credit card so that you can raise your credit score? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about, do you need to get a credit card? Could you stick with a debit card? What the differences are between the two, and what kind of rewards and perks you could get with both options. If you don't already know, my name is Avi, and welcome to Obvious Finance, where we're going to talk all things credit, investing, savings, in order to help you make better money moves and financial decisions for your future. So if that interests you at all, please do consider subscribing. So today we're going to be covering three things. What are credit cards and debit cards? The pros and cons of each, and finally, which one is the card that is right for you depending on how you handle money. So firstly, a quick breakdown of what are debit cards. Debit card you probably already have, and it's connected directly to your checking account. So if you have a checking account, you most likely already have this card, and whenever you swipe this card, it is automatically taking money straight away from your checking account, and it's going towards your purchase. So say I went to Target, bought something for $10, the money immediately leaves my bank account and now goes to Target. Compared to a credit card, which is a little bit more complicated, a credit card is where you are essentially using the bank's money to make your purchase. So let's use Chase as an issuer because they're a very common credit card issuer. If you were to go ahead and spend money using a Chase card, that is a credit card, then ultimately you are going to have to pay that money back. But right now, the transaction you just made was using Chase's money, and that account is now going to have a balance on it you will need to pay back. So now that we know how debit cards and credit cards work, let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of each. So a debit card is great because you can't overspend. You only have what's in your checking account, and if you do hit that balance, if you're at zero or below, you will incur a fee, but you will not have interest charges as compared to a credit card, which could be well above 20%, which is a lot to pay in interest. So a debit card, especially if you're a spender, can really help you out. And we'll talk more about which card is the right choice for you very soon. And then the cons of debit cards, most people think they don't have any rewards points. And I'm going to tell you about some debit card options that do. There are even some debit cards that can help you with your credit score. So if you're thinking credit card is the only thing I can get if I want to raise that, that is not true. I'll tell you about a few options for that as well. The real downside of a debit card is if someone gets access to your card, they find the numbers online, or they get it through the mail, or you went to a store you shouldn't have, and then they went ahead and stole your digits, or even an online store, then unfortunately that money is going to go straight out of your bank account, and you can speak to the bank and hopefully get that back with just a little bit of fraud protection, which should come standard on most debit cards. However, on a credit card, of course, that money would not be yours since you're borrowing it from the bank. And if you go ahead and tell the bank about this charge being fraud, then you will go ahead and not lose any money from your bank account. All right, so let's move on to credit cards. So the perks of having a credit card is most likely you will get some higher bonuses, whether these can be transferred off to partners or used right away in the form of cashback. Either way, basically every credit card out there is going to have some kind of reward incentive for you to use it over your standard debit card. A credit card also will help you build your credit score, and the fact that since you are borrowing money from the bank and paying it off every single month, they will see this as a positive, and so your score will continuously increase. The longer you have cards open and lines of credit open is also going to help your credit score, which will help you hopefully in the future when it comes to car loans, getting a mortgage, etc. And lastly, like we already said, fraud when it comes to a credit card is much better because the money being lost is actually the bank's and not yours. So you're not actually losing anything out of your bank account when fraud does happen. And if it does, either way, usually a credit card will have a little bit stronger fraud protection when it comes to specific purchases going awry. Let's say you purchased something online and it did show up, but it wasn't exactly as you described. There's more chances when using a credit card to get your money back. Now, of course, the cons of a credit card are those high interest payments. There are credit cards, if need be, that have no interest fees. So that would be if you ideally need to borrow money for a short period of time. Those cards do exist. However, I highly urge you to avoid this option at all costs. That is bad, and you should try to avoid it if at all possible. Just for peace of mind, as well as if you're going to get one of those credit cards that have either no interest for a certain amount of time or very low interest, usually the rewards are not going to equal out. So it kind of doesn't make sense to use a credit card in those kinds of situations anyhow. So how do you know which card makes the most sense for you, and also depending on the transaction? So let's talk a little bit more about these debit cards that I spoke about that have a rewards program. The number one that comes to mind right now is the PayPal debit card. Now, this is a relatively new debit card that I already have. It's wonderful. If you have a PayPal personal account, then it's very simple to go ahead and open. Essentially, any money in your PayPal balance is going to be used on this debit card, and you can go ahead and set up monthly for a 5% back category. That could be technology, it could be groceries, it could be gas. And either way, you'll be able to set this every single month for what you want it to be. It can even be for restaurants if you like to go out for eating. So I currently have it, and I've used it quite a few times specifically for restaurants because I have credit cards for other uses, but we'll talk about which one of these is right for you. But if you're looking for a good debit card to get, I would strongly encourage that one. As also I mentioned, there are debit card options that can help you with your credit score. Fortunately, I'm not super familiar with them, so I'm not going to recommend any, but you can go ahead and do a quick Google search, and do subscribe again, because I may make a video about these places in the near future. So finally, what is the right card for you? It's going to depend on who you are as a spender, and you're going to have to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you very, very responsible? Do you budget every single month? And do you know exactly how much money is going in and going out? If you know for a fact that you live below your means, then I will encourage you to get a credit card, just because of raising your credit score. Long term is probably going to be the better play, so that you can get an affordable mortgage hopefully in the future, and you will have better peace of mind just in terms of credit, and hopefully having more money in your bank account that you could be maybe spending or investing for a further month forward. And if you're interested in tips on investing, again, that's a reminder to subscribe, because I do have some awesome videos coming about that very soon. And finally, if you are struggling in any such way when it comes to debt, if you have student loans, a car to pay off, then I'm going to encourage you to stick with a debit card. You can go ahead and get that PayPal debit card that I recommended. There are also other debit cards out there that have rewards, so you will find something for you, and hopefully you can even find one that will raise your credit score. But if there's any such way where you don't know how much you're going to spend in a given month, if you're in debt, or if you just know that you're not really budgeting or living below your means, then stick with a debit card, because long term it's going to be the better choice for you. You won't be able to mess up badly, and hopefully your financial future will be at least a little bit more secure. So in conclusion, you have to be honest with yourself. If you know that you're a spender, I would encourage you to stick with a debit card, and also seeing those transactions leave your account is going to go ahead and put something in your mind psychologically saying, I should probably stop spending money. My account balance is looking lower and lower, as compared to a credit card where that's not really hitting home. You can look at your checking account, it's going to remain exactly the same unless you look at your credit card account, which a lot of people will just avoid at all costs. So definitely be honest with yourself and go with the card option that makes the most sense for you, depending on who you are. Now, once you figure out the type of spender you are and you know which card works best for you, then remember, if you do get a credit card in the future, then always pay it off in full. If you don't, you're probably going to have to deal with interest, late fees, etc. If this video helped you make a decision at all, or you found out some valuable information about credit cards, debit cards, rewards, etc., then please do consider subscribing. Leave any questions you have down in the comments, and don't forget to like the video. I hope to have another cool video coming very soon, explaining the difference between a checking account, savings account, and when you should use each one, as well as some recommendations for each of these accounts that you should look into. So stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.